Now once we have a vote file ready, we can take a look at what's involved in running the actual presentation itself. So to get to that, we go to the presentation screen, select what presentation we want to run. We'll run the senior football. We can start it at a certain round if we want, so I can say start at round 5. Then we push start. Start it at round 5. And this is the presentation screen. Top left we have the round, we have the presentation name, the match name, the presentation logo if we picked one, the top 5 leaderboard, sponsor images, and the actual votes itself. So to continue through the presentation, you just push the continue button. It tells you exactly what it'll do just under it. Continue, next vote, that'll show the vote, next vote, next vote, next round. So there's nothing, if you want to, there's nothing else you need to do. You just keep pushing that button until the end of the presentation. Aside from that, you can also just press the enter key and it'll do exactly the same thing. So you don't need to push anything on the screen. You just push enter and it'll do the same thing. Next vote, next vote, next vote, next round. From here you can also skip between rounds if you need to. If you need to go back around or jump forward a few rounds for whatever reason, you can just go back around, forward around. If you have multiple matches, if you're doing a league presentation, you can skip between matches up here, where we only have one match, so we can't see that. You can bring up the leaderboard at any time during the presentation. You can always see the top 5, but you can also push full leaderboard, and it'll bring up the full leaderboard. So it shows their place, their name, and how many votes they have. You can skip through with that, or just pushing the left or right arrows on your keyboard. You can also change the order. You can change it by votes, sort it by name. If you're doing clubs as well, you can sort it by clubs. This isn't a club presentation, so we can't do that. And then close. Or just push enter and it'll close. So also everything can be controlled from the keyboard. You don't actually need to push any of these buttons. In fact, the first one you can do is remove those buttons. By just pushing the B key, we'll remove all the buttons. There's a preference in the Preferences tab to turn off the buttons to begin with, but if you want, you can always show or hide them from the keyboard. Just press B. You can then skip between rounds. Instead of pushing those buttons up in the top left and right, instead of pushing those, you can just push the up and down arrows on your keyboard to skip between rounds. Similarly, if you're doing a league presentation, you have multiple matches, you can push left and right on your keyboard, and it'll skip between matches. Also, if you're running a schedule, you can hold down Control and press up and down, and it'll skip between presentations. You can also skip through by just pressing and selecting the next presentation. This isn't a schedule. If it was, you could select the other one, or just press Control up and down, and it'll select the next schedule. If you have your presentation running, you can see right here, we can see their totals and the leaderboard totals. If we push the H key, it'll hide it all. This is another setting that can be done from the Preferences screen. You can set it to hide automatically at a certain round. You can also set it to hide this leaderboard as well from the Preferences screen, and then you can just bring it back by pressing H. It's quite handy if you're towards the end of the presentation, and as you see, it's very close up the top there. So if you want to build a bit of drama, you can just hide that, and then they won't see the results until the actual very end of it, until the final results screen. So there it is, final results screen. The winner, second place, third place. If we were showing images, the images would be up there as well. Again, just like any screen, you can push the L key to bring up the full leaderboard, and then left and right arrows to skip between the players. Press enter again, and it'll ask us to close the presentation. Key controls can also be found again just in the help, under the help menu. Just go to the tutorial, there's the page on there about key controls. Everything can be done just from the keyboard, you don't need the buttons. It does look much nicer without the buttons. If you can do it without them, it does look much nicer. And that is how you run a presentation.